Right. It's great to see so many of you here this morning. I have been anticipating today for a while. This is my first meeting with all of you. I am new, as you know, to the USBE team. And as Nick used to say, he's with Steve. Now I can say I'm with Nick. I'm just trying to figure out how to make a button. So I'm working on that. He's the guy with the answers, and I go along and I'm learning a lot. And so this is a great day for me to learn more from you, to hear from you, to see kind of how this show runs. And I've been looking forward to this for a while. I even wore jewelry today for you. It's been a while.
Hey, I even put deodorant on for you guys today, just so you know. It's been a while.
That is very considerate, and I've been wanting to say something for a long time, but Nick, I'm glad that you kind of picked up on that yourself. So welcome this morning. We will get going, and it's nice to see some of your faces, because one of the most awkward things for me with these Zoom meetings is I can't see your faces, and so it's hard for me to know if you think I'm funny or if you think I'm boring or what. So it's great to see some of you here this morning. Thanks for the smiles. You're welcome to put your screens on, whatever works best for your internet connection, but I do like to see you, so thank you for that. We have an agenda that we sent out to you earlier this week, and I just sent another one. I think we had one error on there with the wrong last name, but now it's been corrected. And so that's on there for you. And then also I sent this morning a document that we'll use a little bit later for my presentation. So welcome. I want us to get familiar with the chat button if some of you aren't as familiar with Zoom as others. In the bottom lower part of your screen, there is a little bubble, like a word bubble, and it says chat. So if you want to open that up, I'd love for you to open that up. Something that I've seen people do in a lot of these meetings is take a minute and share something they're grateful for, or what Amanda likes to do in her webinars that she'll talk more about later is she likes to have a mindfulness moment. And so I thought we would just take a moment, and instead of have all 30 of us introduce ourselves, I just like to see who's here, who's present, and who's paying attention, maybe. And so in your chat, if you wouldn't mind typing something that you are grateful for or something that makes you happy. I'll give you an example. This morning, I was sitting here trying to prepare for today's meeting. I felt a little bit anxious, and my cute little 5-year-old came and sat on my lap and counted to 100 for me without any help. And that made me really happy. And it reminded me to take a minute to breathe and to think about what we're grateful for. Thanks, Nick. I am thankful for you. I appreciate that. The fall has been great. Oh, thank you guys for participating. The mountains, the fall are happy. Cheez-Its. Steve, I hope maybe next time you can bring Cheez-Its for everyone when we can see each other in person. I am loving the fall weather. This is great. Jerry, I'm glad you're here today too. Let's see Travis Cook in a tie. Where are you, Travis? I understand Travis once upon a time had long hair. I've even seen a picture of it. There it is. Nice tie, Travis.
I haven't been sharing that picture around everywhere, Travis. I'm sorry. That was probably the first thing I did when Julie got here. I'm like, hey, nice to meet you, Julia. You want to see a picture?
Yeah, you want to see you want to see what I'm going to look like in about 5 years?
Yeah. That's right. This is what the job will do.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm thankful for everyone except for Lester, who's bragging about being in Moab.
I know. Talk about fall weather and hiking. Some of you have been grateful for those things. I think Moab would be the place to be right now. Packers are 3-0, huh? Thanks for the update, because I don't follow it very well. We're Raiders fans at my house, which is weird, right?
Who's the Packers fan?
That is, it looks like Dan.
Ooh, Dan. Hey,
Yeah,
this might be surprising to you, but Bears are also 3-0.
yeah.
Believe me, it's
Yeah,
surprising to everyone else.
I know.
I'd love to see students every day. That would be great. Well, thank you. And you're, oh, it's not really Travis, it's his doppelganger. It's fine. It's fine. We all have one of those, right? I haven't met mine yet. Apparently, Nick's is Brad Pitt. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Obviously. Come on. How did they not know?
The things we learn every day. Well, good. I'm glad we know how to make the chat work. I would like to encourage you to use that if you have questions or want to be heard. Also, you can use that hand raising, or you're welcome to interrupt. This is a meeting. I know sometimes Zoom can get a little bit complicated with interruptions and things like that. So, which is why it's great to have Amanda here today. She's going to help us. She's really great at Zoom. Zoom is something she has really taken on and run with. So we're grateful for all of her skills with Zoom. She'll be managing the chat and helping as we go today. There are a couple of introductions. I know most of you know each other. We do have a couple of new folks today that I wanted to let take a minute and introduce themselves to the group. I did warn them this morning if they even saw their email, I'm not sure. But we have a couple new directors. So if you'll just take a minute and introduce yourself. If you want to verbally tell us what you're grateful for, that would be great, or something that you think we should know about you. So let's start with Lester.
Yep, I'm Lester. I'm in Moab, Utah, and I do credit recovery at Grand County High School. And I am really excited about the potential for this youth in custody. It's going to be fun for me. I haven't done it before, but I'm looking forward to learning and helping the kids here in Grand County.
Awesome. Thanks, Lester. Nice weather, nice scenery, great food. It's a great place to be. Yeah. As well as Micah is new to Carbon School District. I'm not seeing Micah here today. Micah, are you here? It looks like maybe she hasn't joined us yet today, but Micah Salas is the new, she wears many hats from what I understand, but she's taking on the youth in custody responsibilities in Carbon County, which is near and dear to my heart because I graduated high school in Carbon County. Go Dinos. Anyway.
I'm sorry, did you say go Dinos?
I did say go Dinos.
Dinos? That is awesome.
I know, right?
I'm so jealous.
Next time we're going to learn what all of your high school mascots are, because I think that's kind of fun. Just a couple more things. Agenda, we'll follow the agenda the best we can today. I didn't put times on it because I didn't want us to be too married to it. We'd love for your feedback and your questions and your comments as we go today. And so we didn't want to limit anybody, but we do have an idea of how to get through the day so that we can get done at a reasonable time. We won't keep you through dinner, I promise. We also have time scheduled in for breaks, as you can see on the agenda, to stand up and stretch and do the things that you need to do. So please utilize your chat, interrupt, whatever you need to do for the day, and we will just follow that agenda as we go. Nick, is there anything else that you wanted to say this morning before you get started?
No, I appreciate your invitation to interrupt because I watched the presidential debate last night and learned from our great leaders of this nation that is how we do it. So if someone's in the middle of talking, just go for it, right? And
what'd you say? Hey, what'd you say?
No, you got to be a little more antagonistic. Yeah, that was rough. I'm sorry. Yes, that's it. Thank you. Welcome.
All right, then we will just follow the agenda as is. And we, this morning we have Murray here and Nick. They're gonna start us today talking about some news and some updates to different things going on. So we're gonna let Murray take over now, if that's okay with you, Murray, if you're ready to go, and then we'll have Nick follow up.
Ready, 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 ready. Well, thank you. This is irrelevant to most of you.
Joe Murray, is this audio check on my part? Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can, Blake. We
Hi,
have a
I'm
good
again.
we have a good view of your ceiling or whatever. Did you want us to see your face as well? Because right now all we see is a big white spot in your spot.
That's just what Blake looks like.
That's lean on a screen. That's what it looks like. Okay, this is relevant to those who are dealing with who have neglected and delinquent funds, Title I Part D funds. I have 4 quick announcements, and then I'm probably going to bail out because I have some civil rights related matters I got to deal with. Unless Nick and Julia, do you need me to stick around for any other particular topic?
No, Murray, we're glad to have you here this morning, and
Good.
like usual, I'll follow up with you afterwards if anything comes up.
Cool. It's so good to see all of you, or at least the ones of you who have your cameras on. I recognize many of your faces, and it's good to see you. Just a reminder that the annual report is always due November 27th. No matter what year it is, if it's a Sunday, it's still due November 27th. So be sure that you and your staff are continually filling out the content, so that's a reliable form. This year particularly, I am using 4 years of data to help us pursue the renewal of our statutory waiver. So that means that if we did not have a statutory waiver, which we're the only state in the union that has one, if we did not have a statutory waiver, these ETCAs, or the transition functions, would be significantly curtailed. So to that end, I will be requesting some additional information and testimonies from you. I requested some before, and I think I got 1 or 2, and I need more. So watch for a message coming from me. Don't worry about it until you get a message from me. Also, a reminder that the applications for this year's ETCAs and other functions, including the summer school, the historical house summer school that's already occurred, that's in Utah grants, so please pursue the applications. And last point is that when Youth in Custody does civil rights, does on-site reviews, I will be joining them, and we'll be making reviews in concert. And we already have visited with one site, had a really good visit. We learned a lot, and I've changed some things on my side. So don't think of this as just ours coming in to look at you, but it's also for us to learn from you and to appropriately make adjustments as necessary. And I think that's it. Let me just check my notes. Yep, that's it. So thank you so very much. And I guess, as they say, I'm out of here.
Thank you, Murray. Appreciate it. I did want to kind of segue right into the discussion on common assessment, because that's connected, I think, pretty closely with Murray for some of you. Let me share my screen here.
I am going to stick here for that, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Murray. In fact, so Murray sent me this slide just last night. It was pretty late last night. Murray, I think, didn't have anything better to do than continue working at about 8 o'clock last night. And I apparently didn't have anything better to do than check my email at that time. He sent me this managing complex change diagram here. And it actually was really useful to me, but I don't think quite in the way that it was intended. When I got this, I looked at that column on the far right, and it kind of has the outcomes. And those outcomes were actually a good metric for me to look at and decide, hey, what's going wrong here? So I thought, how am I feeling right now? Well, generally speaking, I'm a person full of anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety in my life for some reason. And so I looked back on this chart. What is missing if you're feeling anxiety? Well, skills, right? And suddenly it all makes sense. Like, I'm lacking skills, so I feel anxiety, right? Frustration is another one that I've been feeling a lot lately, especially when we're looking at this common assessment, frustration. And the missing piece there is resources, which maybe is true and maybe is not entirely true. I think it's my connection to resources that is possibly the part that we're missing. But the update on common assessment, to make this long story longer here, is that it's a work in progress still. It's been a work in progress for many months at this point. We had the STAR 360 assessment established last year, and we ran that as a pilot, with kind of the understanding that if it was successful, that we'd roll right into a 5-year contract. And that is still the plan, hopefully. However, state purchasing rules have slowed that plan down a little bit. We're at the point now with the common assessment that it is going through the process to be put out as an RFP, a request for proposals. And this is a state purchasing requirement and probably a requirement in many of your districts for larger purchases, that we have to put a request out that anyone can submit a bid to fill that request, right? As soon as that is out, our goal is to contract for a 5-year contract. As of right now, I would assume that we're still looking at STAR 360, but this process may lead to a different choice. I really don't think so, because like we talked about a year ago right now, we went through this process in a very thorough and methodical way to determine that STAR 360 was the assessment of choice for us, which is why I thought this purchase would go through really quickly. But it hasn't. So we have a new target date looking at late 2020, which probably very similar to this year. When we get that 5-year contract in place, I imagine the expectation, depending on the date, will be that we all are in full tilt as of second semester this year, and we'll be going with that common assessment for 5 years. What does this have to do with Murray? Well, Murray, of course, as part of his federal funding, has a requirement for pre-test and post-test data on students. And as of right now, we have not provided a specific requirement for that pre-test, post-test method. So I want to take a minute just to make sure everyone's clear on our recommendation. And what that recommendation is, and Murray, please step in if I'm misspeaking. That recommendation is basically use whatever you have available. And that could be district assessments, it could be assessments created in-house in your program. If you have TABE assessments left over that you'd like to get rid of, this is a great time to use those TABE assessments. I mean, basically what I'm getting to is that a pre-test / post-test is still required for Murray's funding, and pre-test, post-test as educators, it is still recommended as a best practice, right? I'm sure you're all familiar with that, and so there's already something built into your system. I'm sorry that we've made some promises with this STAR 360 and we're falling short of those promises. I really do apologize for that. That's one of those items that's causing me great anxiety, but we'll keep pushing forward and try and get that common assessment and common process for assessing these YIC students, which is beneficial to all of us, in place as soon as possible. I think I'll pause there for a moment. Murray, do you have anything you want to add, or does anyone have any questions concerning our progress or lack thereof with common assessment?
I don't, Nick. This is Murray. I think it's well presented in your position. Ideally, we want to have something that is transferable from site to site and pre-custodial care to post-custodial care. But with the situation being what it is right now, we've got to punt, and this is what we do. And I just want the rest of you to know that Nick and now Julia, they work their guts out for you. And they, I mean, seriously, I have not seen any staff in our office that work any harder than these individuals. And I'm honored to be part of the team, and they are a great asset to our state. And we sometimes have things like you do that are out of our control, and some of those factors sometimes get in the way and cause speed bumps, and we're in one of those right now. I see some chat comments.
probably mostly me.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get a copy of the report. I think we shared it fall of last year, so some of you may have joined us or forgotten since then. And so we'll attach that in the post-meeting materials as well, so you can see what our criteria was for that decision-making process that led us to the STAR 360 as probably the best option for our circumstances. All right. Now, we do have a time-specific item on the agenda in 5 minutes. We have some friends from our partners at CEEAS. It looks like Christina's on here. Let's see. Christina, is Roy with you now?
He's not here yet, but he'll be joining shortly.
So I'll continue then, and we'll go for 5 more minutes, and then we will cut that off and go to our partners from the artists formerly known as CEEAS. We'll explain that in a second. All right. Give me just a second too. All right. So to bring you up to date on a couple other of the big initiatives from the State Board of Education concerning youth in custody students right now. Talking about First Star Academy. Hopefully some of you have heard of First Star. It's a fairly new program in Utah. It's been around for a while nationwide, but I think this is the 3rd year at the University of Utah. Then the president of Outreach and Engagement and the dean for continuing education, which was Sandy Pershing, she had a great interest in helping these students in foster care be successful in their transition to college. And she was looking for opportunities to help them be successful, and she stumbled upon First Star and brought that to the University of Utah. They grew for a couple of years and made us aware of the benefit to the foster care youth. And so we've been able to become a partner with First Star Academy. There's some statistics on there. I think you're probably all pretty familiar with most of these statistics. Nationally, less than 50% of youth in foster care will graduate high school. Less than 10% will enroll in higher education. And of course, that number of successfully completing higher education is even lower. I found that first statistic, I skipped over that for some reason. I found that really interesting. It's more likely for youth in foster care to become homeless, incarcerated, a teenage parent, or on welfare than it is for them to graduate high school. Well, First Star, they attempt to break that cycle. Nationally, these are national statistics for a lot of students who have gone through the First Star Academy program. 98% are graduating high school. It's a pretty incredible number when you're looking at any population, let alone this one of the most at-risk populations in the country. 88% of these kids are enrolling in higher education. So we have been able to form an interagency agreement with the University of Utah to help support this First Star program. It will actually go before the state board tomorrow to be ratified, but I don't see any conflicts tomorrow. I think that should be good to go forward. So let me tell you just a little bit more about First Star and maybe what it might mean to you as well. The First Star Academy, basically it's an outreach program for foster care youth that brings these kids together. And honestly, it's a little different right now, as is the case with most things in the education world. But ideally, what we're looking at is that they have monthly Saturday academies. So once a month, the kids get together for a day-long academy meeting where they have lots of different activities of, well, let me tell you kind of what they do at both these weekend academy meetings, and then also their summer academy. There's a big focus, of course, on academics, looking towards focusing on higher education. I kind of refer to it as Step Up Utah for youth in foster care, right? There's this big focus on academics and academics in a way that it's helping our students to transition to higher ed, right? And they do that through one-on-one tutoring, small group tutoring, there's mentoring. Every student is assigned a first star mentor, and those mentors, of course, are connecting now with their Check and Connect mentors as well as we combine our efforts. They look at credit recovery, ACT prep, financial aid workshops. They help the kids with their college admissions applications, all of that stuff. So lots of academic help. There's life skills and self-advocacy that they're working on quite a bit. You know, looking at financial literacy, things like conflict resolution. They look at extended foster care benefits and help students to connect to those benefits to which they're entitled, which are available. They work on things like resume writing and job and career planning and so forth. And then, of course, there's this big chunk of experiential learning during their summer academy. And the summer academy is 1 month on campus every summer during their high school career at the University of Utah. They get to stay in some nice dorms at I think it's the Lassonde Studio dorms is where they stay. They're on campus. They have the opportunity to go home on weekends if they're interested and able. If not, they're able to house them all month long and really give these kids an in-depth and immersive experience that really connects them to education. Carol asks the very important question, how many students are accepted into this program? And the answer, unfortunately, right now is not a whole lot. They have a single cohort right now, I believe, of 28 students, but they're adding a second cohort. That's one of the effects of our joining with them, adding a second cohort of students. And these are students that come from all across the state. We'll be looking to increase the number every year over the next few years at least, and hopefully working on efforts as well to get other universities involved, because I think this is a really beneficial program for foster care youth. Obviously, the statistics are supporting that.
Nick, there's been a question about how many students are accepted into this program. Do you know?
Yeah, I think I kind of covered that. Like, so right now 28. They have an existing cohort, but they're continuing to add students, right? And Blake, that's a good question, because when we say 98%, we're talking about a motivated set of students, right? These are kids that we're selecting because they have the potential for success in this program, that they have interest in being successful, and they have the potential to succeed, right? So we're a little selective. I'd like to get less selective. That's where our involvement comes in. State money comes in to make that process a little more open to more students. Well, let me put the contacts up there, because this is where we really need the help. And Carol, these are great questions that I am right now going to point you towards this connection information, right? Because I want to start peppering First Star Academy with recommendations for students, right? That we need to show them more that the need is out there. A lot of their difficulties have been with recruiting students, and we have all the students, right? We are the great place to help them recruit more students. I want there to be a waiting list, absolutely. So we have the contact information, firststar@utah.edu, which is just their general contact email address. Alexa Hudson is the director of the program there at the university. And she's on maternity leave right now, but I believe she she'll be back within the next week or so. However, she's still very responsive considering that she's on leave, which I don't recommend. When you take leave, take leave. And then Marisol Perez is the co-director as well, and very responsive people. Check out their website, please. It's firststar.utah.edu. If you just go to, I think it's firststar.org, I should double check that. You'll get their national website, which there's some great information there. But the firststar.utah.edu will give you all the local information for the First Star Academy. I'm really excited about this. Of course, this is just kind of a basic introduction, and we'll be refining and reaching out a lot more in the near future to get a lot more kids involved as we help grow this program. Are there any, let's see. A moment to make sure I haven't missed anything. Blake is always really good for ideas that check progress. I like this. Yeah, a control group. You know, the problem is when you have something research-based like the First Star Academy program, it becomes difficult at that point to create the control group, because we know what works and we know to not provide those services willingly is possibly unethical. Now, willingly becomes a big question. We could check a control group due to our lack of ability to provide services. And those are the kind of things that we'll work on here in this office to continue to assess and determine what the actual benefit is. And we'll try and keep you posted there. Carol, I don't know what their dates are. They're a fluid program at this point. So I think if we reach out to them and start peppering them with interest, then we can grow very soon, especially with the soon to be influx of funding from the State Board of Education. I know that was really quick. Does anyone have questions on that?
Hey, Nick.
Yes, Jerry.
Just for those of us up north, where this is run through the U of U, is there any kind of idea if we could do this through Utah State or somewhere else up on the north end?
Yeah, we're definitely looking to purchase or pursue, sorry, we're looking to pursue connections with other institutions, but it is a statewide program. Right now in their current cohort, they have students all the way from Logan down to St. George, right? So it is, of course, more difficult, and there has to be a willingness to transport these kids once a month and 1 month a year. It's kind of like the, oh, the word escaped me here. Oh, there we go. The Army Reserves for foster care youth, right? That idea, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, except we get them a month a year. But yeah, statewide right now, and we hope to grow to other universities very quickly. Dr. Pershing is still a proponent of expanding, and she's I don't know if you've ever had the chance to meet her, she's a very dynamic and convincing person, and so it's great to have her on our side with these efforts.
So, and I don't know, Nick, if it has to be necessarily another university. It's just that, and I think in the summer where they come for a month and stay on campus, that's not an issue.
Right.
It's the weekends each month. If there was some way to hold that up on the north end rather than travel down each month, you might get some students up here that would do that.
Yeah, I agree. And right now, as we're looking at the current situation, everything is virtual, you know, even with these academies. And I was amazed this summer at their success in keeping students involved. You know, they had grand plans to get those students together every day for a month. And you see that kind of thing and you think there's no way there's going to be success, but they did some amazing things. I mean, they sent out a kit, which was like a meal preparation kit. This was one of their activities. They mailed it to every single student. And then they had online cooking classes with the materials that they mailed out. Just really engaging stuff that got students involved. And and their numbers this summer were very high. So yeah, I mean, remote learning right now is definitely a possibility, and a possibility for the future as we're all perfecting the opportunity and process with remote learning.
Hey, Nick, Murray here.
Yes, Murray.
With it being statewide, does that mean there are mentors statewide, or are they all in the Wasatch Front, Salt Lake zone?
I believe all of their mentors are in the Salt Lake Valley is where they're based, but I'm not positive. They work with a lot of volunteers, and they work with a lot of interns and graduate students. You know, it's always great to have that university connection, because there's a lot of free labor that we're connected to. But I do believe it's primarily
Are they
Wasatch
interested?
Front.
Do you think they're interested in, if I can use the business concept of franchising their services,
Mhm.
so they could build subgroups in different locations?
Yeah. And really, that's where First Star Academy programs start. It's basically a franchise. There's a national First Star Academy, but I think they're in 10 different universities right now. And each university basically just buys into the program. You know, of course, it's a no cost entry, right? Anyone who's interested and willing to get involved is able. But it is basically like a franchise. They take this proven program and move it from university to university and try and make it available to as many students as possible. So it makes it very easy for us if we find willingness and funding to grow this program across the state.
Hey, Nick, Trina made a comment about a group that went through this 3 or 4 years ago. Do we know where those students are, or how they did with the involvement in First Star?
There is information on their website. I think the first full cohort graduated not this past year, but the year prior. And right now their graduation rate for that cohort is 100%. And I believe 100% post-secondary enrollment. And they're also connected with other, I can't remember the name of the program, but another program at the university, which is basically the same program, but for college students, and they're immediately connected to those programs. So services don't stop with high school graduation. They're passed on to a similar program at the college, so they continue to receive the similar services and have that similar connection. But yeah, Trina, I believe that outcomes were fantastic, like along the lines of 100% success. And that is a small number of students, of course, and a select group of students, but we'll be looking to, you know, I don't want to say decrease those outcomes, but as we widen our pool of students and get as many involved as possible, we'll see those results probably fall a little bit into a more realistic range of what the success looks like. But I think we'll continue to see high level of success for this program. All right, I'm sorry I talked about that a lot longer than I planned, Christina and Roy. I hope haven't cut too much into your time today. I do want to introduce our friends from the group formerly known as CEAS. Oh, I had a slide for this. I forgot. I don't want to let my slide feel left out here. Do you want it, Christina? Do you care if I do the big reveal or?
Oh no, you take it away.
Because I've been practicing, right? So CEAS, the Center for Educational Excellence in Alternative Settings. We've had a partnership for many years. I think, Travis, maybe you can chime in, but I think we're on our 9th or 10th year. I think 9th year this year.
Yeah, we're thrilled that we're still in the mix. So obviously they've done real significant work on the East Coast and other places where they're actually wholesaling changes to entire states and entire approaches. but we've also benefited dramatically from some of the initiatives and just the partnership. So thrilled that we're still in it.
Yeah, I am as well. You know, for us at the state level, CEAS has given us access to YIC education leaders across the whole country, right? And we're talking like in New York City's District 79, which is their alternative program, which includes Rikers Island, right? Looking at all the education programs there at Rikers Island. The guy in charge there, his name's Nick actually as well. And he is like total stereotypical New York guy. I love talking to him. He's exactly what you think the guy in charge in New York should be. But we're connected all the way to the opposite coast to LA County Office of Education, right? I mean, I sat for 3 days a couple of years ago with the superintendent of LA County Office of Education, you know, and I think as far as education goes, she's a big deal, right? That's pretty high up there. We work with Florida Department of Juvenile Justice Services, which oversees their education components. And I mean, we have friends in Maryland and Kentucky, New Orleans, Washington, D.C., of course, Texas, Colorado, Idaho, Oregon, you know, all over the country. We're connecting with these people and really seeing what's going on with youth in custody education across the country. More locally, you might be familiar, we did student climate surveys for a few years with CEAS. Most recently, they've provided us with 8 weeks of education lessons, daily lessons in response to COVID, right? Like that was an immediate response, which I know a lot of our teachers were able to utilize a lot of those lesson plans because they were created just for that specific situation. Anyway, CEAS has always been a little difficult to say, a little difficult to remember. So in a wonderful move towards progress, CEAS has now become Break Free Education. This is our new partnership. So if you hear Break Free Education, hopefully connect it with your understanding of CEAS from the past. The more I think about this new name, the more impressed I am. You know, it really does encapsulate our understanding of what education is for these kids, right? This is their ticket out. When we talk about dosage and treatment and everything, I hear that from Juvenile Justice Services. And every time they say that, I think to myself, well, honestly, dosage and treatment of education it's what's going to help these kids. And that's what this shows. Even their logo, those 3 books with the bars, you know, you start to see that juxtaposition of that image right there that just speaks to the work that we try and do and that they're helping us with. So I'm going to turn the time over to Christina and Roy. Roy, I have to apologize. On our initial agenda, I put the wrong last name. I just jumped on the website really quick, and the first Roy I saw, I put that last name. Who would have thought there could be 2 Roys in one organization? So thank you for joining us, Christina and Roy. I will stop sharing, so you're welcome to take over and share as you will. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for being here.
Alrighty, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for that wonderful introduction and explanation of our new name. We are very excited about this. And I'm even going to be more excited when I get to take away those little parentheses of formerly CEAS. We are just Break Free. But Roy and I are here to kind of talk about our teacher resources and explore ways to engage students. Just a little introduction. I'm Christina Campbell. I'm coming from Los Angeles, actually. We're a small little team and we're all spread out. A lot of that is because we work around the country and we kind of travel to different spots. Roy, my colleague, is on here. Hi, Roy.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here. My name is Roy Middleton, and again, I work with Break Free and Christine, and I'm based in Washington, D.C. And again, it's just a pleasure to be here and share this space right here.
Yeah, great. So I gotta click on the right page. There we go. So what is Break Free? Nick kind of jumped into this a little bit, but our mission here is to radically improve education in the juvenile and criminal justice systems by investing in the potential and dignity of all students. And there are really kind of these three main buckets to our work. So we partner with juvenile justice agencies around the country to provide resources, training, networks. Most recently, this last spring, we partnered with Colorado, and they have a lot of older youth there who kind of needed some work around transition. So they wanted to build a curriculum, and we built a 12-week curriculum around transition, kind of what kids need to prepare for when they leave their facilities, whether it's, you know, transportation, whether it's secondary, post-secondary education, or really just finding your passions and interests in life. So we built that 12-week curriculum and really tailored it to their needs. I'll also point out here that we run 2 schools. We founded the Travis Hill Schools in New Orleans at the juvenile detention facility and adult jail there. So you might have heard those names, the Travis Hill Schools. And we have a team down there that operates them. Our second bucket here, we work with policymakers to advocate for changes. A lot of this work is really around ensuring students with special education needs receive those services even during their time in confinement. So we work with agencies to really kind of understand those policies and really advocate for kids in order to, you know, have the funding to provide those services, et cetera. And this last bullet is really kind of why we're here today. We develop educational programs that engage students and get them excited about their education. And that's what Roy and I are going to spend most of our time talking about, these teacher resources. So in those teacher resources, there are kind of these 3 buckets. Educational initiatives, which we'll talk the most about today. These are project-based curriculum mini units. They're free for any teacher to access our resources on our website. All of the resources are included for each of the initiative, and most of them include a national contest with prizes and winners. Our Million Book Project, this is a new partnership that we just launched with Dwayne Betts and the Million Book Project. And this is a monthly book club. We're going to have a focus book each month for this school year. We'll have a book lottery for teachers to win a classroom set of that book. We'll have teacher guides, student journals, and prompts, everything in order to facilitate a book club around that focus book of the month. And then, as Nick mentioned, these daily lessons back in March, April, we developed these set of 8 weeks of daily lessons for remote teaching right when kind of COVID started and all of the lockdown began, and a lot of facilities around the country, some even not in juvenile justice facilities, but public schools accessed these lessons just to make sure that, you know, school didn't stop just because of lockdown. So let's jump into our educational initiatives. We've been doing these for a long time, and in the past, we typically maybe did 3 or 4 a year. Last year, we decided we wanted to do one for every single month of the school year. That obviously got cut off because of COVID in the spring, but we're gonna do it this year. So I have an image here of our calendar for this 2020-21 school year. I'll kind of walk through the individual initiatives as we go through. But the point is, we're doing one per month. As I mentioned, it includes all the resources. So lesson plans, slides, student handouts, everything that a teacher is going to need in order to carry out the initiative project in the classroom is made available on our website. Like I said, most include a contest, and our first place student winners this year are all walking away with a Chromebook that they can take home after they're released. So we get some great sponsorships and have some neat prizes to go along with those contests. And we typically put up our sign-up announcements at the end of the previous month, right? So October coming up is our Unsung Songwriting Competition, and we put out the call for sign-ups, I think, not last week, but the end of the week prior. So we kind of put that out in advance, put the materials up in advance so that teachers can kind of take a look, sit with it, maybe adapt it to best meet their students' needs before they launch it on October 1st. So I just want to walk through what the different educational initiatives are that we're offering this school year. So September has passed, but we hosted Unheard. You'll notice all of these start with un. That's our fun little branding thing, although it can get a little confusing at times. But Unheard was our speech writing competition that we just wrapped up, where students learned about persuasive speeches, and they recorded and wrote 3 to 6 minute speeches and submitted them, and we'll be announcing our winner in the next couple of days. In October, we're doing Unsung. This is our songwriting competition where students kind of learn about protest songs. So this is in conjunction with October, which is typically Youth Justice Awareness Month. And we have a partnership with Soundtrap, which is a really awesome software or application that students can use in order to make beats and make songs. So when teachers sign up, say they have 200 students at their school, they get 200 free licenses of Soundtrap in order to carry out the Unsung initiative. And again, this is a national competition, so we get awesome submissions and we come up with a winner, and we come up with a playlist each year of the top 10 or 15 songs. So that's going to happen. It starts tomorrow, but signups are still available. So if you're interested in this, we still have licenses and can get you guys set up quickly so that you can still participate in Unsung. In November, we have Uncovered. This is our podcast in print journalism. Students are going to be exploring ideas about fake news, how to compose a headline that is enticing and makes people want to read, and really kind of dig into aspects of a sincere and authentic journalism. We're going to put together some type of publication ourselves from student submissions and put it out in the world. In December, we have what was formerly known as Sending Some Love, but now we've given it an unname called Unwrap. And this is our holiday book recording project. So we send out a bundle of children's books to students in secure facilities, and they make recordings of that book, and they wrap it and they either send it home with a note to a loved one, a sibling, a child of their own, another family member, or we do have a lot of classes that actually end up giving those books to children's centers in their community. It's a really kind of feel-good project to happen during the holidays, and students get really excited about that one. So that's Unwrap, our Sending Some Love holiday project. In January, we have a new Unconstruct. This is going to be a cardboard challenge. So bringing in kind of that maker space, really kind of using elements of STEM for this project. In February, we have Unbound, which is our national readathon. This is kind of one of our long-standing initiatives. It's one of our biggest ones. We have thousands of students participate each year, lots of prizes, and really just an opportunity to get kids engaged and excited about reading. We get a lot of amazing, heartwarming stories from Unbound about students finishing the first book that they've ever finished, and that's a big one. In March, we have another new one. It's called Unknown. We wanted to bring an initiative around science, so we're going to look into kind of cellular biology. There's going to be a social justice element here, talking about Henrietta Lacks and kind of the use of people's cells for research, and we're really excited to launch that one. And then in April, our other very big one, you might have heard of this one, is Words Unlocked. This is our poetry competition. This is the initiative that started it all many years ago. It's a poetry writing competition that really kind of centers around a theme each year. We typically have a focus poet that kind of gives a talk to students, and we accept student submissions and have a winner, and it's really amazing the work that students kind of produce from that project. In May, we have Undivided. This is, we did this last year, though with COVID, it didn't quite work out because nobody got to really pull it through. But this is an initiative that kind of focuses on a chapter of James Forman's book, Locking Up Our Own, really focused on kind of civic engagement, looks at Washington, D.C., in the 70s and 80s about kind of gun control and gun violence, and kind of then mirrors that to modern day and the March for Our Lives that teens have engaged in the last several years after school shootings. So that's a really neat initiative as well. And then to wrap it all up, in the summer, we do Unfiltered, which is an annual book club. This past summer, we did Just Mercy. We had over 100 sites that we shipped off over 3,000 books to, and students kind of read and engaged with Brian Stevenson's book, Just Mercy, that really kind of digs into mass incarceration and redemption in the criminal justice system. So those are the initiatives that we are offering this school year. I hope you guys might be interested in getting your schools to participate. At the end, I'll kind of go to our website so you guys can see where to navigate and kind of access more information on that. But now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Roy, and he's going to explain a little bit about the Million Book Project.
Well, I mean, the Million Book Project is, again, through our, Christina stated earlier, through our partnership with Dwayne Betts and the Million Book Project. We're sponsoring a monthly book club, obviously for a lot of great reasons. Again, as the slide kind of points out, increase access to meaningful books for our students. It encourages honest dialogue around contemporary fiction, as well as expand school libraries. I'm intimately familiar with this, how impactful this project can be, because I was incarcerated myself as a juvenile. I went to prison when I was 16 and came home when I was 41. So I'm intimately, again, familiar with how impactful this project is and will have the potential to be. So essentially, each month, we share free copies of a selected book through a sign-up, like a lottery system. Along with the books, we provide teachers' guides, discussion questions, as well as like student reflection journals. This month's selection is actually Dwayne's poetry book, Felon. Just an amazing book. We believe that it will engage students as well as create open dialogue and open discussion about some really tough topics, man. That's kind of pervasive in these adverse kind of situations, as far as fatherhood and substance abuse and mass incarceration. And again, just some really tough topics that kind of pervasive in the juvenile justice system and in those spaces. Again, at the end, obviously it's going to be a poetry competition, a national one with poetry to be submitted, and determined or judged on, and again, rewards or acknowledgement, and all those other things are kind of again can be granted to those students who participate in it.
Awesome. Yeah. So, and I just want to point out, the books that have been chosen to be part of this book club are not the typical books that kind of make their way into our spaces. And that's why we are really providing these teacher companions that can really kind of make it easier for teachers to kind of delve into these difficult and challenging topics. But you'll see here that we have some other books that are upcoming. We have Insurrections, we have Children of Blood and Bones, which is a wonderful YA fantasy, so not quite as heavy as some of these others. Men We Reaped, Poet X, and Heavy. So we're really excited about this partnership with Dwayne and the Million Book Project and the book clubs to come up. So I want to just take us to our website real quick so that you guys can kind of see where to access all of these resources. If you scroll down, you will see our 3 buckets of work, and teacher resources is where all of this information is gonna live. Again, here's our calendar of events. We do have a teacher or practitioner newsletter. I really encourage everyone here to sign up for that. You're going to receive updates on new resources, whether they be initiatives, some other book club, whatever else that comes our way that we kind of build out. You'll also get the announcements on the signups for when initiatives are about to start, and you'll get information on how to sign up for the next month's Million Book Club as well. Each of our initiatives has its own specific page. So for example, Unheard was in September. If you click on the Unheard page, you'll be able to register. This is past, so that doesn't work anymore, but you'll be able to register for the initiative, and you'll be able to access all the teacher resources. So the lesson plans, the handouts, the slides, if there's a contest, what the policies and guidelines are, a submission portal, and then we have a suggested calendar for each of the initiatives for teachers to kind of base their lessons when they deliver them. And then I'll just also point out that we have an initiatives blog. So if you are participating in Unsung or another initiative, we post updates. We'll announce our winners and essentially all of the important news with particular initiatives on our blog. And then you'll see here, we have links to our Million Book Project and our daily lessons that we created for COVID. And on our Million Book Project, you'll be able to sign up for November's book club, which is going to be Insurrections. So hopefully that's clear as to where you can access everything on our website. Again, I want to encourage you guys to sign up for our newsletter. All of our important information comes in there, and then to follow along with our blog. So that's all we have prepared, but we are totally willing and able and excited to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Christina, there's a couple questions that came in on the chat, which I think are fantastic questions for us in Utah. The first, as you know, we deal with both students in facilities as well as any other students in custody school programs as well. Are these resources, are they designed only to be used by teachers in juvenile justice settings? Is there any capacity?
All of our materials, meaning, you know, the lesson plans, the slides, the student handouts, those are free, available, anybody can use them. I mean, even if you're a public school, use them. So that's not just for teachers in specific juvenile justice settings. However, our competitions, so any submissions that we accept for the poetry competition or the songwriting competition, they have to come from students that are currently incarcerated, you know, in a facility. So that's kind of the distinction there. There are some, for instance, when we offer books, when we, you know, kind of give out free resources, that's also really geared solely for juvenile justice settings. But that doesn't mean that, you know, you can't get a class set of books and still use, you know, the resources that we create in your classroom. So those materials are still out there, but it's really for everybody, but it's really the competition submissions and like the free books, things like that, where it has to be in a juvenile justice setting. Sometimes we can make exceptions, like with our Soundtrap licenses for Unsung, we have a little flexibility that we can provide some to schools that aren't in juvenile justice facilities.
Okay.
Great question.
To add to that, I mean, just looking at the September initiative, which has obviously passed, the lesson plans and the schedule and everything is still available, right? And so
Yes.
those can be utilized outside of September. Like, we're not stuck to this month. Once you eliminate that national publication or contest element, you can integrate those same ideas within your school or your setting, but you're not bound to the specific calendar that's placed there.
Yes, thank you so much for pointing that out, Nick. Yes, all of the resources and materials, they stay up on the website. You can use them at any time. It's really just those national competitions. It's why you would want to do it on the actual calendared month. But yes, you can absolutely go back to them and recycle them whenever you want.
And then Murray, our civil, excuse me, our civil rights expert, is wondering if there are books available for persons with visual disabilities or other disabilities or non-English speakers.
That's a great question. I have not come up with the visual disabilities before. I don't think we've had any questions on that before. So I'm going to have to think about that one. For non-English speakers, we do sometimes get books in Spanish or in a different language. For example, that Just Mercy over the summer, we got a handful of copies that were in Spanish that, if a teacher requested them, we were able to, accommodate that. So sometimes it depends on where we're getting our donations from. We're a nonprofit, so we don't technically buy a lot of these materials. We get them donated to us from a foundation, et cetera, and we're able to do something with them. So it depends, but sometimes we do have that available.
Good. Another clarifying question from Wendy. Some of our programs are residential treatment centers. So is this the population that we're looking at, or are we looking specifically at juvenile justice facilities?
Juvenile justice facilities, typically, yeah. And we kind of outline, I didn't pull it up, but in those contest guidelines, we have it make it very clear as to kind of who can submit for those contests, and it explains a little more about residential versus other. So I don't have the exact wording memorized, but you could check out those guidelines to find that answer more specifically.
All right. I just like to put it out there. I know that you all have your own resources for making this work. If this is any of these initiatives are something that you're interested in, there may be a little work on your end, whether it's getting texts that are appropriate for students with disabilities or in other languages. Utilize your resources to make that happen on your end if it's not available through Break Free. And of course, we have state resources available as well. So if you need funding to increase resources, then we'll be talking about that later this afternoon. Does anyone else have any other questions they want to shout out to Christina and Roy?
Nick, Murray. I put a message in the chat box saying I would encourage them to encourage donations to be addressed towards Spanish-speaking individuals and the visually impaired. Also, if push comes to shove, I know that Youth in Custody may be willing to put some money out there, but I think depending on the amount of money, I think we could also use some of our neglect and delinquent funds for those secure sites and RTCs. I guess RTCs are not in the game, but definitely for secure care sites and appropriate other sites that the ND funds can cover. This may be something we could look at as well.
Great, and that's a great suggestion. That's definitely something that that we think about. So I appreciate you pointing that out for us as well.
All right. Anything else that we've missed here?
So, well,
Okay,
thank you so much for having us. And, I really hope that we get to, partner with you guys a little deeper and get your students involved with these initiatives. We are always available. I'm C. Campbell at breakfree.org. So please feel free to reach out or, reach out via our website if you have any questions at all.
Definitely, and thank you as well for giving us the opportunity to kind of show again our initiatives and what Break Free kind of stands for, and again just appreciate the time.
All right, thank you, Christina and Roy. I'm very grateful for you joining us today. When you were talking about the Unwrap initiative,
Yes.
I teared up right then, just because remembering seeing the submissions from last year. Just amazing the work and the potential that we see from these students who are in the direst of circumstances. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Thanks, Christina. Thanks, Roy.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Nick, I think if it's all right with you, we'll take a break now and then come back to the rest of our agenda. I just realized I have never shared my screen or a presentation via Zoom. So I was thinking, how do I practice this without giving away all my secrets? So I'm just gonna have to do it note-free, I think, because I'd rather see your faces as I present than just look at a screen and not see you. Because that's awkward. It's awkward to talk to myself, let's be honest. But welcome back. Those are just my thoughts. There you go. You just had a moment into the brain of Julia. So you're welcome for everyone that's back on time. Those that aren't here probably are grateful. We are going to continue along our agenda. We are going to hold off on some of the information Nick prepared this morning, just an update on STEM CAP and some other things. He'll share that as part of his presentation after lunch. And we'll go into talking about the monitoring of youth in care programs. But before I do that, I just want to make sure we're not missing anything in our chat or any questions that maybe came up during. The music was pretty fantastic. Thank you, Amanda, for entertaining us with that. And I love the idea of making Wendy's pups our mascot. I think maybe a youth in custody mascot would be awesome. Nick, did you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I don't think I've had Wendy on a call and not seen her dogs in the background. I've only seen one so far today. So great idea.
Sadly, my other dog passed away a month ago.
Oh, I'm sorry, Wendy.
Just have one left.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm about to join the puppy club or the dog club in a couple months. I'm pretty excited about that. I think dog people are good people, right? I've always thought I liked other people's dogs, not necessarily my own, but I think I'm ready to become a better person and have a dog. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna try to share my screen now here. See how this goes and see what happens. All right, do you see my screen? I don't know what I'm looking at here.
It's weird, right? Yes, we see a big green rectangle.
Okay.
And then Julie, I wanted to chime in. It's Amanda. If you go hover up at the top, it will give you presenter controls, and usually under either those right there or more, like the three little dots, you can pop open the participants in another window.
Okay. I think I see you guys over here and I see my screen over here. I think this is gonna work. Nick, thanks for smiling at me, validating what I just said. Okay, I think I'm good. All the technical fun of virtual. And this is a really boring first slide. We are going to be talking about monitoring of youth in custody programs, but I don't know if you all caught in the chat earlier an image that was brought up, which I felt like was much more attractive than my boring green slide. So you're welcome. It looks like these could be brothers if you look closely through the facial hair. I hope, Steve and Travis, that you're okay with this, but I think it's pretty fantastic. So thanks, Steve.
Steve was mentoring me at the time to take on my new look, my new Provo look. This is the Provo version. That's the Salt Lake version, right? Utah County versus Salt Lake County.
It makes sense. It absolutely makes sense.
Both are good looks, Travis, but different times.
Indeed, we are in different times. Thank you, Steve.
Yes, and I want you to know that I didn't know that you could share images in the chat. So if any of you have any great images you'd like to share of each other, we can easily make them available in this setting, blow it up, shine it, have some words attached to it. So, so thanks for that. All right, so getting into the monitoring program, we know some stuff, right? We know some stuff about how the youth in custody program monitoring is going to go. I looked at previous slides from previous directors meetings and I looked at agendas to know pretty well that we know some stuff. We know that in board rule, it's right here on the screen, we know in board rule that it is something that we are asked to do as the Nick and I, Amanda and Natay, it's something that we need to be doing and even maybe monthly. I think that's looking a little bit differently, but we have spent some time this summer defining the process. You know that we need to do this and now we have a process. The other thing that I'm going to jump down to this third little form here is that we have a form that was created. It was addressed last year in directors meeting and we've gone through it. I've sent you all the most current version of that, and the only thing that really has changed is we've added some citations to it just so that you're familiar with where some of this information is coming from, as well as it's been updated to the feedback that has been provided historically in these meetings. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through that form today. I don't have any slides based around that form because I feel like that's something that you have seen and I don't want to reiterate what you have seen. For those of you that are newer to this group, I would encourage you to look through that, see what it comprises of, and then please ask questions as you go. And if you do have questions regarding that form, because you do have it in your email, you can pull it up. If you do have questions as we go, please, again, use your hand raising or interrupt or use the chat box to ask any of those questions. And that's one thing I don't see is a chat box.
Julie, I've got mine popped open. I'll interrupt you if I notice anything.
Perfect. And so we're not going to spend a lot of time in that form, but the other thing that I know, that we know, is that we really do. I've met with many of you and I've sat in rooms with you, and even recently we were able to leave our dungeons and go to Davis County and sit with Blake and talk about his program. And it was my first opportunity to really have an in-depth tour of the site and get to know how things work. And it was really eye-opening and awesome. It also was a great opportunity because it was arranged through Murray and the ETCA out there to have a young lady come in and speak to us and talk about her successes in their program. And it was really impactful to me because I was able to see how what we do impacts the individuals that we serve. I come from the world of DCFS. I worked there for 13 years, and I have a great passion to serve these youth and create better outcomes for them. They deserve the best that we can offer them, and education is one way that we can get rid of some of those horrible statistics that Nick talked about earlier today. We know that they don't graduate high school. We know that a lot of these kiddos end up in jail or prison or addicted to drugs. And so I know that we want to do the best that we can. And so through monitoring, it can help us do things like, I wish I had my notes here. Oh, I do. It can help, oh, I'm gonna ruin my slides. Hold on. I've got to reveal. I don't want to reveal too soon. Anyway, we know that this is a vulnerable population, and we want the best outcome for them. And so the purpose behind this, in that form, there's a really nice worded reasons why we do monitoring, and it addresses things like assuring quality. It addresses things of finding the strengths and the needs of different programs, and opening doors for growth and for resources that can better serve our folks. So I know that we all know that we want to do the best we can for the kids that we serve. So as part of this, something that we don't all know is how we're going to go about doing these reviews, because it is going to look different than it has historically. I think those of you that have been around, through the Travis era and through the Steve era and the Nick era, now it's not really the Julia era, I promise. Nothing's going to change that much. But we do have a process that has been created and that has been reviewed with Leah, our assistant superintendent here at USBE, and we're going to follow this process the best we can. And so I'm going to try to break that down for you, but I want you to know that Nick and I are taking this really seriously, and instead of coming down and having conversations, we have created a dress code, and we have put on our sunglasses when we're going to come with serious business to your locations. I have been an auditor actually before I came to this job, and I wanted you to see that not only are we going to audit, but we are going to slay aliens. And so you might even see these guys come along with us as we come to your locations. But we do take ourselves seriously, but we also do have a lot of fun, and we want to make these visits an enjoyable process for everyone, so that we're all learning and growing and providing the best services we can to the folks that we serve. So if you want to see that again, just because it's so beautiful, I also want you to pay really close attention to my photo editing skills, because this is something I'm really good at.
So this is a little disheartening to learn how much gray this job has caused.
Yeah. And it also might be a little disheartening to know that I had to Facebook stalk these people in order to get pictures of them. So I apologize if anybody's offended but it's public, sorry. P.S. Facebook is public. You put it on there, we all get to access it. So I'm just gonna use what I've got. That being said, this is the process. So the process for how we are going to go about doing these reviews, I've tried to simplify it into a 1, 2, 3, 4. Obviously, there might be a 5, 6, 7, 8, because this is a work in process. We haven't followed this process yet, and so it will be a work in progress. And so as we go, we would love feedback. We have started with Blake's team, or with Blake, going up there, asking him some questions, trying to gather some feedback as we get started. But the only way we can really move forward is by getting started. And so I will just walk through these 1, 2, 3, 4. And please, if you have questions as we go, Amanda, interrupt me. or whoever else has questions as we go. So let's start. The first thing that we need to do is we need to identify where we will be completing these reviews. We know that it's generally every 3 years we should be coming to your programs to review them. But even as you saw in that rule, it's up a little bit for interpretation, even talking about monthly reviews. And so how we have determined which schools we're going to focus on that year, we would love to hit everyone every year if we possibly could, but that's just not feasible. And so this is the risk assessment that Nick and I and Amanda and Nate will be using to determine the schools that we will be reviewing that year. So if you look at this, this is based loosely on a risk assessment that was created by Adult Education as they've gone through their monitoring programs. And Nick, please correct me if I say anything incorrect, because this is as far as I understand since June when I started working here. So this is something that we've adapted to make work. This is something that you might have already seen before. I didn't see it in any slides from previous directors' meetings. I'm not privy to all of the emails that you guys have sent out historically, but this is what we're using. If you see, your names are all listed here, are all of your districts. I have a USBE example here because it just shows you as we go through each question here and we score them, the numbers will add up. And then if it's in red, then you're a lucky contestant for the review. So that's kind of how that works. I've taken out most everything here. It looks like I forgot to delete a number, but that's one thing. So here are the questions that we're asking. I don't know that you necessarily need me to walk through and read them to you. I know you have it in front of you. Do any of you have any questions regarding the specific risk factors that we are considering when looking at who is going to be reviewed for the school year? Okay. If nobody has any questions, I think we'll move forward. There is a column down there where it says UPIP's review schedule for FY21. This is something that we are going to be doing for the first time, and we don't really know what this is going to look like. But our team and the UPIP's team, and I don't know what UPIP stands for, so Nate or Nick, if you know what that stands for, you're welcome to chime in. But what this team does is they review the school districts for their special education services. And so in order for us to not duplicate anything that they're doing, and also for us to not burden districts any more than we already do, we are going to attempt to work with their schedule and come out and visit the schools at the same time. That being said, we don't really know what that is going to look like. So Lucky Steve out in Iron County, in Iron School District, he will be the first one to experience the UPIP's team and Youth in Custody joining efforts. And this first go around is going to look probably different than future go arounds as we're all learning together. But you'll see that when we've calendared your reviews this year, we have taken that into consideration. We will be coming out together, and it will look a little bit different than what I'm going to present to you today. If you get both of us, so you can see there. I don't know if you can see my cursor on my screen, but it's identifying who those lucky programs are that get us both at the same time. I'm trying to think if there's something additional to the UPIP's consultation that you might want to be aware of. It's going to really, a lot of what we're going to ask of you will need you to work a lot of the schedule and things out with your SPED directors there in your districts as well, because we will be combining efforts. And after October 20th through 23rd, which is when we're going to iron, we will know a little bit better what that looks like, and we'll better communicate with you on that in the future, what that might look like. And then lastly, after we complete the risk assessment, we consult with UPIPs. Nick and I went through all of your district calendars and tried to find dates that we hoped would work best for you. And we sent those all out to you, and you should have all received an email from me regarding the dates that we've identified for those reviews this year. And so those should all be on the calendar, and you're aware of that. If you are not, if this is a shock to you, please let me know, and then I will send information out. If you haven't heard from me, it's probably because we're not reviewing you this year. So there are a handful of folks that are not going to be reviewed this year, and it's because they've either had a review recently or we just couldn't fit it in. We tried to fit everyone in this year, but it's not going to happen. It's not feasible for Nick and I to get out to everybody this year. Although I think everyone wants us around, right, Nick? I get the sense that you all really like Nick. And so I'm sure you want to hang out with him as much as I enjoy it.
Well, Steve and I both discovered that once you start controlling money, people will like you a lot more. So I have lots of friends in this room, right, guys?
I'm imagining it's true. All right. Before I move on and how we identify and create schedules, is there any questions about any of this? There must be some good chats that I can't see. Okay, I'm gonna move on.
This is Carol. I have one question.
Sure.
I'm being new to the process. So we are scheduled in January. So just looking at the documents, do you want us to focus on just this year's, or last year and this year, or over a 3-year process?
I think primarily, and I'll go through all of the documents that we're going to be asking for you to provide. And I think mostly we really just don't want you to have to stretch too far backwards. And so it'll be present within the last school year, typically. If there's stuff you want to send from previous years, you're welcome to, if you think it would be helpful for our review. Otherwise, we're going to just be asking for present information. So why don't I jump into that? I think that's a good segue into the preparation for this review and what we're asking of you, and also what Nick and I will be doing on our end. So about a month prior to your scheduled review, you'll receive a letter from Nick and I, probably via email, but it'll be an official letter on letterhead. And we're going to ask for the things outlined in number 1. And so the educator licensing form, which is page 2 of the form that I sent you all this morning. We just ask that you fill that out with the educators that you're working with and send that back to us, as well as your district's youth in custody mission, vision and value statements, your strategic plan, and those things. If you have questions about these things, if you're like, I don't have these things, or I don't know if I have these things, Blake suggested, when we met with him about it, he suggested that his mission statement is the district's mission statement, because you are one district with similar outcomes. And so whatever that looks like for you, if you've got questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Additionally, we're asking for any professional development agendas you have from this current school year, any that you have that might be coming up. We don't need you to have agendas for the whole year planned out, but anything that you have that can give us evidence of quality professional development. As well as any of your LIC attendance records or minutes from the school year, that would be really helpful. And then any MOUs you have between your RTCs and the districts. Now, the reason we're asking for these things is, as we went through the youth in custody review form, these are things that we felt would be helpful to provide evidence to score them accurately. And so that's why these things have been identified as documentation that we would request from you today. Now keep in mind, this is documentation we need from you in advance. So number one is in advance, and if you could get it to us about a week prior to us coming out, Nick and I can get started on that review ahead of time. So the sooner we get it, the sooner we can start. And so that way, when we come do your visit, we're a little bit more prepared with any information we feel like we need to share, or it might give us some questions that maybe we can dig a little bit deeper into as we come out to your programs. So this will all be listed in the letter as well. So we will provide these slides to you, but also know that a month prior to your review, it will all come to you and you'll know exactly what you need from us for the day of the review. So nothing you need to stress about too much right now unless your review is next month, right? The other thing that we're asking you to do that's outlined in that letter is that we're going to need you to help create a schedule and make appointments for the day of the visit. It makes much more sense for you to do that than you to get us all the contact information and have us figure out how to make that work in your programs. And so that brings us to the next slide, but please, if you have questions, don't hesitate to jump in.
Julia,
move
on
forward.
the chat, they're asking, is there an example of an MOU provided by our office?
Nick, do you have any thoughts on that?
You know, there's not really, but we can see what we can do to collect one. And we haven't like required MOUs in the past, so we don't have any existing MOUs on file here. But yeah, we can send out some guidance on that for sure. And yeah, thank you, Blake. There are definitely MOUs out there. And so we will probably reach out to a few programs and maybe make a collection. I think that would be helpful.
I just figured out how to see your chats. Perfect. Oh, this will help me to know where we're at too. And I know as talking with Nick about those MOUs, they may exist, they may not exist. And so just do the best you can. And this is one of those things, it's a work in progress. So as we do have them, we can send out more guidance and provide some examples. Oh, and Blake, you just said that. And Colleen, that would be great too if you have an example. If you can maybe provide those to us, we can include that in the post meeting. We can package everything up and provide that together. Great. Thanks, Jason. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the day of the visit, I think. So on our visit day, these are the things that we are expecting to do, a rough agenda of what the day could look like. So I'm just going to break down each of these for you. That first orientation meeting, this can include anybody that you would like to be present. So it would just be a meeting where we would come together, make introductions. It's generally going to be Nick and I from USBE. You may see Amanda and Nate come along as well, but you're welcome to attend. If we're working with the UPIPS team as well, then your SPED directors might be there. Your principals could be their teachers. It's really up to you who you decide would like to come to that orientation meeting, but it will be very brief and it will be an opportunity for us to discuss the day's agenda and what the day will look like and answer any questions ahead of time. So very simple. We're not asking you to put on any kind of presentation or anything along those lines. Another thing we would like to do the day of the visit is we would like to do site tours of all of your locations. So some of you are going to have us there for a couple of days. Some, it might just take half a day for us to come do a site tour and get through the review. And so we would like to see all of your different sites, and I personally really look forward to that. Another thing that we would like to do is review your student files or documents. So when we went and met with Blake, he brought in his school counselor, and he was able to explain to us what we would be seeing, what that would look like for them. And I think, Blake, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we were doing the full review in their district, he would have his school counselor be the one to navigate those school files for us. And so that can look however you want it to. In the review form on page 7, it outlines the things that we will be looking for in addition to the career and readiness plans that would need to be in there.
Sorry, Julie, this is Carol, and I know I've got tons of questions, but I'm new to this
Hi.
game. I'm a little unclear on what you mean by student files. So are you talking like their CUME file, a special ed file, a YIC file we've created? Like, what are you looking for in a student file?
So all of it, right? Let me see if I can pull up that form. Do you still see my slide, or do you now see this form?
We're seeing the form, Julia.
Thank you. So the CCR plan, IEPs, 504s, behavioral progress and improvement, anything along those lines. Students' records, including grades, attendance.
Thank you. That's super helpful. I got it.
Scores, assessment. So really it's a lot, right? But hopefully that breaks it down a little bit of what we're looking for. And so you might, depending on your program, I'm sure you file things a little bit differently everywhere we go. And so we're just going to need your help in looking for those types of things. When I'm talking about student records and data, or when we're talking about that, we're not going to look at every single student in your program. We're talking, depending on the size of your programs in your facilities, it could be anywhere from 1 to 2 students to 15 students, just depending on your individual districts. Another aspect of what we would expect that day is we would like to do interviews of one administrator, which would likely be you, or somebody that you generally works over the youth in custody program and has a lot of knowledge about that. We'd also like to meet with at least one teacher in each school or site, however that works in your districts. So one teacher per site, if it's multiple programs that way. And also at least one student in each site. And so, and these aren't long interviews. We're not going to keep them for an hour at a time. But we would like some time set aside so that we can interview those individuals. We'd also like to observe a class or two for a short period of time. So if you could include that in the agenda for the day to have us observe one of your classes, we would appreciate that. And Nick, I don't know that we need to necessarily be there for the entire class, but definitely enough time for us to see the methods of teaching and those kinds of things. And then the last thing we would do that day is we would get together with whomever you would like to at the end of the day to debrief how the review is going and what that looks like, and provide any immediate feedback, strengths, needs, whatever that might look like that has come from the review, and share that with you that day. And so that you have a good idea of what will follow. Any questions about any of this and the expectations of you in preparing for your visit? So the two things, the documentation about a week ahead of time, and then also creating that schedule and providing the information the day of the visit, or days, depending on your program. Okay. And we're going to have lots of time for you to ask questions at the end too. So if they're building up, you can wait to share them in a moment. And then to wrap up this process, there will be a couple of things. So Nick and I will be completing the form that you all have with you, and then also creating a report that's summarizing the strengths and the needs of the review. And what we will do with that is we will send that to you initially. And that way you can review it. And then if there are any needs, or if there's anything that we see might need a little bit of change, we're just going to ask that you respond, just have a written response of how you plan to address those needs. I'm trying to think of an example of what a need might be. I haven't done a review of your program before. I've done lots of reviews in my previous job with the Office of Quality and Design. A need might just be, we encourage you to get a more organization around your files to make that a little bit more easy to follow and easy to access student records. That might be a need. And then a response to that might be, we're going to utilize Aspire to a greater level, and whatever else that might look like for you. And so just really simple. And then what we would do with those responses, we would wrap up and create a final report, which would then be provided to your districts and superintendents. And then also keep on record here at USBE. So as we move forward and continue these reviews, we will have access to historical reviews to help better inform as we move forward and to provide maybe better support or resources. Yeah, and I think, Blake, I think you're absolutely right. Us coming out and doing kind of a little review of your program really helped me to see how awesome I think you're doing, and give me context to what's happening all over the state. I think this will be a great opportunity for you to shine and to feel really good about what's happening in your programs. Thanks for that. Any questions as far as that goes? And really, that's it. This is very minimal. It's not a difficult, long process. I know that the process is new, but I think you'll see that, it's a lot of conversations. It's us coming out and having conversations with you, talking about your programs, getting an opportunity to see your programs in action, and then being able to provide good information for the state, for the school board, to see what great work you're doing. And so I think it can be very validating. So I just have this last other beautiful slide. I wish I had an image of Carol and I graduating from Carbon High School with our mascot, our dino mascot. I don't have that for you today. But any questions? And I think I'm going to stop sharing so that we can look at each other as we have a conversation. And I can pull that back up if you want me to. Any feedback, anything you would like to see us do in these visits, anything you don't agree with that I've reviewed today? Now is your time to share. Nick and I are not married to any of it. We haven't made any commitments because it's a work in progress. Nick, any thoughts? Anything
Yeah, this talk of marriage and commitments is kind of scaring me, actually.
Sorry. We're both happily married to to people, not to this program, but we are excited about the process.
Yeah, I think that's correct, Jerry. We emailed everyone who we need to schedule for this year, right, Julia?
Yes.
So you are off the hook if you didn't get an email.
Right. But make sure you looked at your emails. If you'd like me to look at our list specifically and say yes or no, you do not, or you do have a review, then I'm happy to do that. If you historically don't get emails or emails get lost.
If like you've blocked us in the past.
Yeah. Or you're like, who is this Julia Armstrong? I don't really want anything to do with her, so. I wasn't sure if it was, what the etiquette was in sharing what's happening with all the districts in a PowerPoint. So I tried to keep all of your information. I didn't want to put this on blast in case anybody cared. And Jerry, you are box elder, right? So you're off the hook. Okay, and Lynn is asking for a list. Are we good to share the list of who's getting visits and who's not? Are we okay with that?
I'll let Nate pipe in if she's around right now, but I see no reason not to.
Yeah, sorry, a list of.
Of which programs we'll be monitoring this year.
Yeah, I think that's fine to share.
Okay. We'll include that.
If you're starting with Blake and Steve, the rest of us have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
That's how we planned it.
Bravo.
We went to Blake first, right? So that everything else will be a shining relief.
Yeah. He told us how it was. He laid it down.
If you guys don't know this, Blake is on his final year with us this year. So if you want the honest truth, now is the time to get it, and he is your guy.
Okay. I don't have anything to add unless you have additional questions. Like to hear it from us about a month prior, and then I'm here for you. So if you have questions as we go, if you've got concerns, comments, whatever, you please just reach out, and I will make myself available.
And honestly, I think I took my microphone off. Could you guys even hear me when I'm talking?
I couldn't at all.
Oh.
Just fine.
All right, I'm mic'd back up. Honestly, you have to look at the motivation behind the things that we do sometimes. And of course, we want what's best for kids statewide. We kind of have that statewide view of what's going on. But also, this is honestly our only way to get out of our basements right now. So if you feel like we're doing a lot of reviews, that might be why. Like, I don't know if I mentioned this, but back when I was in college and I thought, what do I want to do with my life, right? I thought, well, I'd like to be all alone in my basement, right? No one else there all the time. What career? Yeah, education, that's the direction to go, right? So in other words, I'm lonely and I want to come see all you guys, and this is our excuse. So Julia, if there's nothing else, we're just 11:08 right now. I can finish a quick review of the state initiatives, which is just talking about our STEM CAP program right now, and then we will break for lunch, I think at 11:30, and that'll get us possibly a little ahead of schedule. Carol just mentioned in the chat, it's time for USB to get back into the building. I will share some information that just came to us last night, I believe at about 5:30. Our plan was to return to the building Monday, and how's it go? The best laid plans of mice and men have gone awry again. And they are now telling us January. is the return. I'm just going to leave it at that. We all know that Nick is lonely and has a bad attitude about this, so I won't say anything more. But if you're finding difficulties in working with USB staff because they're out of the building, I don't honestly think that's the case, but if you're finding it, please let us know. We need that feedback. I think the opposite is actually what is true, that we're learning as a state agency and our leadership is learning that the response from the state is able to be just as effective working remotely. And that's why they've justified this continued remote work environment. But if it's not the case for you, please, if it's with us, let us know for sure. If it's in general, let us know. We can help make the connections, whatever the case may be. All right. Let's get back to state initiatives. Like I said, we have a couple big initiatives that we're working on. Sorry, I just cannot push buttons and talk at the same time. There we go, all buttons have been pushed. So our next state initiative that I want to talk about for a minute is the STEM CAP, or the STEM Community Alliance Program. And it's in one of those programs that has been a real evolution here at the Youth in Custody group at the state and with some of our partners. It started quite a few years ago. In fact, Travis, I was going to ask you when we started with the STEM Ambassador Program. Do you know? I'm guessing like 5 years ago, but that really is a guess.
Yeah, so Nalini Nadkarni, who is kind of our lead with all these projects, I approached her years ago because of her work with Blue Rooms. You can Google it, but in essence, it's her work with isolation rooms for adult inmates. And that was the genesis of all these other pieces that came from this. So yeah, she's been a real gift to work with. As a matter of fact, she just did another Radio West this past week on all the trees that had fallen after the windstorm. So if you want to feel connected to someone that we've got a common thread with, Nalini Nadkarni is her name, Dr. Nalini Nadkarni.
And how long ago was that, Travis, that you connected with her?
That would have been, yeah, probably 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, like Travis said, it's been a great experience. I think this is one of the great connections that we've made here. It started kind of as something small with the STEM Ambassador Program, and basically what that was bringing scientists into our programs, usually just for like a single lecture, just a connection to say, hey, this is what a real scientist looks like out in the world, right? And they're probably not exactly what you'd expect them to be. And it's evolved to the point where we now have scientists coming into classrooms for weeks at a time, working with students directly on specific projects and helping the students not only be involved, but do the work of a scientist and really see what it means to do that work. I've invited Jason to share just for 1 minute or so some of his experiences in Granite School District with the STEM CAP program. Jason, are you with us right now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, sir.
Okay. Yeah, it's been really good, the whole process, how it's evolved over the last couple of years. First year we did it involved the Milkweed Project at Decker, and the kids just loved it. I think what's neat about it is, it's a science theme that can kind of increase the rigor in the curriculum for kids in an appropriate level, because our kids are typically a little bit behind. But what I liked about it is it kind of took what we know, not only YIC kids, but kids in general, respond to curriculum when you see something that has some life applications. So, God, that was a segue, Nick. I didn't even know you were going to put that up there.
I'm on top of things.
But they're able to see it in action. And some of the things, they're very organized, and they have been able to develop it around themes about, they call them grand challenges. So Blake and Travis, you know all about that, but they stem a particular challenge and get the kids to really think, which I think is nice. It gets them to advocate for causes, and it doesn't do it in a way that is, you know, so much of what we do these days, I should say, is so political, and it creates it can create a lot of anxiety and stuff, but they ask them to advocate for things they believe in that are responsible causes and not kind of into those cloudy areas. And the kids like it because it's life application, like I mentioned. It's something that they can take from them when they go and continue advocacy if it's something that was of interest to them. And we did have some kids that it kind of spurred interest in potential careers for them. So I don't have enough nice things to say. Nailini's team is really organized, and the kids really loved it, and the teachers loved it too. That picture they initially had was over at our site. Used to be called Genesis, more of the DSI, Day Skills Intervention, and it just was well received there.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate that. And again, it seems a little bit like we're sharing some initiatives with somewhat limited reach, right? When we're talking about the STEM CAP program, we're working again with University of Utah to provide that connection to some of the secure sites that are right here on the Wasatch Front. And I know that that's limiting and doesn't necessarily give the attention that we need to the rural LEAs that we're working with. But I'd like to present it kind of as a model. You know, if you go to stemcap.org, they've developed a really fantastic website with the work that they're doing. But what I've noticed above all else with the STEM CAP program and the STEM Ambassador program is how willing and interested people are to come in and work with our kids. And I don't think I took advantage of that enough as a teacher, whether as a classroom teacher in a traditional school or in a secure setting, knowing that there are community members out there that want an opportunity to share and to serve and to work with our youth. And while there are some roadblocks that we face that maybe other teaching settings don't face, none of them are insurmountable, right? STEMCAP has proven that we have the ability to bring in scientists and equipment and experiences to our students that they probably have never had in the past, right? Whether in traditional school or in the many school settings that they've been placed in through their state involvement, they just don't have these experiences. You know, we have the opportunity to really expand what is available for our students. And STEMCAP is another great model of how we can do that, you know, how we can start making connections with instructors from local colleges or local businesses, or even just people we know. Dr. Nat Carney said that one of the hardest things she's dealing with right now, as she put out a call for presenters, is the sheer number of people who want to be involved. And it's hard for her to limit the involvement to the capacity that they're able to support right now. Yeah, I don't know that I had anything else I wanted to say about the STEMCAP program, other than I do really encourage you to reach out through stemcap.org, check out what they're offering. They have, again, lesson plans and connections on there. And I'm sure Dr. Nat Carney and her staff, I guess I didn't put their emails, but it is on their website. They are, again, very responsive and more than willing to make connections or help you make connections. All right. Any questions before I turn it back to Julia, who I think will turn us loose for lunch?
That's about
Julia,
right.
it's all you.
Yes. So this is where we come to a break. And